is Bianca Lackner, and I will be examining an obsolete technology and the emergent technology that replaced it. In 2006, when Fountainhurst University decided to implement a one-to-one desktop program, similar initiatives were being introduced with increasing frequencies in the United States and abroad. One-to-one computing access initiatives have evolved with the emergence of new technologies and aim to implement more portable versions of the computers into the learning environment. The availability of wireless internet access and the teaching and learning affordances provided by mobile learning technologies have led to the decision to replace the district's computers in the one-to-one classrooms with mobile devices. The 4 laws of media developed by McLuhan help explain how technologies transform into different forms that better meet the needs of a society while maintaining their historical and technological identities. McLuhan's laws of media help explain how emerging technology evolved and progressed through time by responding to the questions: what did it enhance, what did it obsolete, what did it reverse into, and what did it retrieve and rekindled. Applying McLuhan's laws to the desktop and the mobile device, the two of 4 elements might be the following: interviews with the decision makers and end users such as the principal, IT specialist, and classroom teacher help to gain deeper insight into how the adoption and obsolescence of a desktop computer as a one-to-one solution in the district, and how the mobile device came to replace this technology that was an emergent one at the time of its adoption.
Tony Galletti, and I'm the assistant principal at Fountain Hills Middle School.
Okay, so introduce to the desktop computers. Did you have experience using it? Did you research prior to making this decision?
I didn't do much research myself. I've used them in the past before within the field of education, but left the research and the technical aspects up to the IT department.
Okay. Do you remember why did we originally look at the desktop computer as a solution for the one-to-one implementation?
At the time, the main 2 options were desktop or laptops back at the time when they were ordered, and the desktops were much more cost-effective within our budget.
Yeah. Did you consider other options? So which ones?
We did look at other laptops and mobile carts. I know there was discussion about whether we should use Macs or PCs, and again, it was the cost that it bared out. We used desktops.
Okay. Remember the year the decision was made to adopt the desktop?
I believe the decision was made in 2004, but there was a lot of discussion and debate prior to that.
Okay. For what site and grade levels was this technology intended for?
Originally, back then, it was intended for high school, grades 9 through 12.
Okay. And what factors led to the decision to purchase a desktop computer? And I know we want to talk about that a little bit. Do you remember the decision-making process?
Yeah, we started with, because we wanted to get a variety of opinions and input from teachers, and so we formed a technology committee. We asked for volunteers from various levels, whether it was classified, certified, admin, and IT, of course, and we had a technology committee with the bi-weekly or monthly meetings to talk about the process.
Okay, and what was the intended outcome for the adoption of the desktop computer and for those meetings?
Yeah, for the
adoption, yeah.
Yeah, the outcome was that we were going to go with the desktop computers, and again, most of that boiled down to cost. There were a lot of teacher support for laptops just because of the mobility, but the price, especially at that time, just wasn't feasible to get as many machines as we wanted.
Sure. What, if anything, were the desktop computers going to replace? Did they replace?
We didn't really have a one-to-one solution before that, so they were the first step of the one-to-one model that we adopted.
Okay. Could you describe the desktop computer's implementation process?
Yeah, we started with that technology committee, and then we also looked for teachers that were willing and able to implement them, that had the technical background to be able to come up with the content to use them with. So we didn't roll them all out in all classrooms. We kind of let volunteers step up to pilot the program at first.
Okay, so small round devices. Was the desktop computer as a solution for the one-to-one well accepted or embraced? Why or why not?
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of skepticism at first, but once the technology committee was formed and we'd met a few times, there were a lot of teachers who wanted to try new things that they'd seen in other workshops or they'd seen in other districts they were at prior. And since they had a say in it and they had a voice in it, they kind of did embrace it and took ownership of it.
So you think this bottom-up approach really helped?
Definitely, yeah.
Buy-in.
If it had come as a directive from the top, I don't think it worked as well.
Great. I'm going to have some questions regarding usage.
Okay.
Was the use of desktop computers required or optional? And I know you went over that. Why was the decision made? So why was the decision made to have the teachers buy in first?
Sure. Well, the district did want to adopt, some type of one-to-one solution, but again, we didn't want to force it down anyone who wasn't comfortable or willing to take it on. So that's why we didn't require it of anybody. We asked for volunteers, and so in that case, it was optional. But it was understood that once the teachers had agreed to take on these desktops, that they were expected to be used regularly in the classroom.
Okay, so what were the intended instructional purposes for the desktop computers?
We were really looking at ways to, increase student engagement and also to begin to teach tech skills to the students in addition to the content, and then just another way to access the curriculum.
Okay, and do you feel that the teachers use the desktop computers for those instructional purposes, those intended purposes?
I think for the most part, I would say yes. There was a learning curve at first, but once we had some of the technical bugs worked out, and within the first month, I'd say yes, they were used for the intended purposes for the majority of kids.
Okay. And if only a majority of teachers use the desktop computers for the intended purposes, why do you think the technology was successful?
I believe it was planned out accordingly. We didn't try and rush this initiative. We made sure we had done our homework ahead of time and looked at ways we could adopt it, what we could put into place to help the teachers. And we wanted to give them a say in building their curriculum on the computer as well, rather than forcing something canned to them where they just had to basically adapt to the program instead of build their program.
Okay, wonderful. So why are the desktop computers as a one-to-one solutions no longer used?
I think since, the 7 or 8 years since this was first looked at, technology has just gone so far that now, the desktop computer is kind of seen as old technology, and we're now looking at wireless solutions, mobile devices, iPads, tablets, mobile phones, and iTouches.
Great. So do you see this technology replacing the desktop as the one-to-one?
Yes, I do see. Yeah, I believe the wireless devices have in this district have already replaced the desktops for the most part.
So what factors do you think were involved in the decision to adopt the mobile devices as a new technology?
I believe just there's a lot of factors, but the cost, the newer technology has come down in price compared to what we had to pay for desktops back then. It's about equal, and just the number of uses and the number of applications that are available for those devices.
Okay. And looking back, are you glad you adopted the desktop computer?
I think so. I think it was a good first step for the school and for the district to, you got to start somewhere, and I think we started in a nice spot and have grown since then.
Okay. And one last question, I guess. Is there anything you learned from this experience that will help you make decisions about future adoption of technologies, you feel?
I think the key is just to make sure you do your homework ahead of time and not rush anything. Make sure you get all, we did site visits here to other schools to go look at how they were implementing technology, what they were using, ask them the pros and the cons. So just making sure to do a lot of work up front before you purchase and adapt, and then you'll be much more successful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now let's take a look at the desktops to mobile device transition in light of Thornburg's 6 forces. Many factors influence the emergence of new technologies, with no one factor being sufficient to explain how or why one technology is adopted and another is not. According to Thornburg, there are 6 forces that drive emerging technologies. According to Thornburg, technologies go through an evolutionary process as they continue to transform, change, and improve over time. Best described by Moore's law, this force predicts a reverse trend between the power and price of new innovations. The exponential growth of computing is a marvelous example of the growing returns from an evolutionary process, the desktop computer becoming exponentially more powerful over time from the mainframe computer to the small form factor the district adopted. This force is useful to explain the emergence of mobile device, which replaces the desktop computer as a one-to-one solution. As the mobile devices evolve to acquire all the functions of a computer, this force may also be useful to explain the reason why the desktop computer became obsolete as a one-to-one solution. The evolutionary model may be applied to the mobile device, with subsequent models of technologies more powerful than the previous and less expensive with each new model introduced on the market. The rhymes of history force demonstrates how societal patterns from the past are often reinvented through technology to meet current needs. Those rhymes of history force is illustrative of McLuhan's third quadrant of his technology tetrad, specifically the rekindling something from the distant past. According to Thornburg, a new technology is an emergence from the impact for many years before from another technology. Although the mobile device repeats one computer per child device, this force does not necessarily help explain why the desktop and the mobile device originally emerged as a new technology, nor does it explain reason why the desktop became obsolete. The force of a disruptive technology demonstrates how a new technology can come out of nowhere and obsolete an existing technology. According to Thornburg, technologies are always susceptible to being obsoleted by unanticipated wildcard disruptive technologies. This new technology has the same functionality, but superior, more efficient functions at lower cost. Thus, this force is useful in explaining how the mobile devices emerged and how they drove the desktop computers as one-to-one solution into obsolescence, since they provide a more cost-effective solution while offering the same increased affordances. The increasing returns force is illustrative of a new technology, even a suboptimal one, obsoleting another through intense competition in the marketplace. With innovations coming up on the market at the same time, it is possible that by chance one of them locks in and drives the other one to extinction. Because the desktop computers is an evolution of the mainframe computer, and because it preceded the mobile device on the market, the increasing returns force may not explain their emergence or the obsolescence of the desktop computer as a one-to-one solution. Thornburg proposes that the force of science fiction provides creative and imaginative ideas that may trigger the imagination of inventors. This force is useful to explain the emergence of mobile devices, thus particularly because it drove the invention of the touchscreen that is at the core of the mobile device. Thornburg suggested that the Red Queen force explains how, when two technologies are in fierce competition with each other, they gain an advantage over their competition by becoming more effective in meeting new needs. The Red Queen is the operant force that drove the competition between Apple and Microsoft in the computer market. Also, this driving force is visible and useful in explaining the emergence of the mobile device, with fierce competition between the Apple devices and those powered by the Android operating system. So, what does the future hold for the mobile device? Will it be replaced by yet another technology? Although we cannot yet speak with certainty, given the 6 forces that drive emerging technologies, one can speculate that the technology that will drive the mobile device into obsolescence will be smaller, more powerful, cheaper, and will have capabilities that we can now only imagine.